G'day mate, 40 here. So in the light of all the savagery in southern Israel by Hamas over the weekend, it makes you curious, why did so much of the organized Jewish community support more Muslim immigration right into the United States? Like, why would they want to import this level of dissension, savagery, brutality, slaughter to America? I mean, did they know what they were doing? Like, were they intentionally importing this level of barbarism into the United States? And of course they did, right? The big Jews, not the little Jews, not the regular Jews, not most Jews, but a tiny proportion of Jews are incredibly influential in major Jewish organizations and in politics, right? The professional activists. They saw this kind of slaughter, this kind of barbarism, right? It's not going to affect them because they have their security guards, right? They live in the elite neighborhoods. They can afford elite protection. But they deliberately encourage the importation of this kind of terror into the United States for their own reason, to introduce chaos and therefore more restrictions on speech, more restrictions on our basic freedoms. Right? They sought to import chaos and barbarism, then justify more power for themselves to shape how Americans behave, how Americans can vote, what are the boundaries for appropriate behavior for Americans to try to contain the chaos and cruelty and mass slaughter that they're importing. Right? They want to import poisonous snakes into our room. So who do you blame when you discover poisonous snakes in your room? Do you blame the snakes for acting like snakes? Or do you blame the persons who deliberately put the snakes in your room? And all the major Jewish organizations, except for the Zionist Organization of America, support massive importation of Muslims to America after 9/11 in the name of diversity, in the name of multiculturalism, in the name of inclusion, in the name of all these wonderful modern secular values. And they've supported the importation of massive, millions of refugees into Europe as well. So why? Like, what's the benefit? Why would America, France, Germany want to import these bloody Middle Eastern wars and genocides into their country? And why is it that all the major Jewish organizations, except for the Zionist Organization of America, hold to policies that are not supported by the majority of Jews, right? The majority of Jews are hardworking, care about their families, not particularly politically active. They're certainly not in favor of, massive revolutionary immigration and, disruption to the way of life and importing, terror and dissension and conflict and slaughter and rape and pillage into their homelands. But why is it that the big Jews, the big organizational Jews, have an agenda that regular Jews want absolutely nothing to do with? And, what's the advantage to this level of importation of brutality and terror? Like, why would any country want to import these fight to the death style conflicts that are rampant throughout the Middle East? And why do all the mainstream Protestant churches support the same thing? Why do pretty much all elite non-governmental organizations support the importation of this kind of terror? Like, what is it that the Christians are thinking? What is it that the leading non-governmental organizations are thinking? What is it that our elites are thinking to import this into America? Like Donald Trump said, we should pause this kind of immigration into our country, and pretty much all the elites, from academia to law to religion, who are outraged at slowing down the importation of the kind of terror and slaughter and desire for disruption that we saw on evidence in southern Israel this weekend. And now it's provoking an Israeli invasion into Gaza and major conflagration in the Middle East. Like, why would all our dominant elites, dominant NGOs, dominant Christian organizations, refugee organizations, the biggest Jewish organizations, all support the destruction of a harmonious, cohesive, high-trust way of life? Why?